Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting this November 15th of 2021 of the Mono County Board of Supervisors. I will see if Supervisor Dugan, if you could lead us in the pledge, please.
Thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Dugan. And with that, we'll move to our first agenda item, which is an opportunity for the public to address the board on any matters not on our agenda tonight.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move to our second agenda item, which is our Mono County Strategic Planning presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to, I believe, Justin or Robert. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's Justin Caparuso.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Kreitz. Yeah, welcome everybody to the Mono County Strategic Plan update here, November 15th, 2021. I'm going to be administering the workshop / webinar and kind of running through a few housekeeping items. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening and first go through and introduce you to those that you see on the screen here in front of you. First, I'll run through, of course, we have our Mono County Board of Supervisors, Chair Jennifer Kreitz. We've got Supervisor Bob Gardner, who is also serving on the Strategic Plan Committee. We have Supervisor Stacy Corliss, Supervisor John Peters, and Supervisor Rhonda Dugan. Thank you all for joining us. We have CAO Bob Lawton, County Counsel Stacy Simon, and we have Queenie Bernard, who's running behind the scenes as she always does for us. Thank you, Queenie. And then you may see that you have Robert Bendorf as well, and Robert is joining us and going to be running through the strategic plan today. A few housekeeping items. Again, we will be providing an opportunity for public comment at the end of the presentation, and so we ask that you hold off and then also participate at that point. And then I would like to open for opening remarks again, sending it back to Supervisor and Chair Jennifer Kreitz.
Thank you, Justin. And again, welcome everyone. On behalf of the Mono County Board of Supervisors, welcome to our workshop for the update of Mono County's strategic plan. The effort to update our strategic plan, this workshop and presentation is put together at the request of the Board of Supervisors and the County Administrator to seek input from Mono County residents, businesses, and many of the stakeholders. Your input is valuable, and we are excited to see what your priorities are. As a board and organization of over 300 employees, we value everyone and the service we provide to you. We strive to be better than ever, and we want our services to be second to none. In order to do that, we need your help and input. Further details on how to do that will be presented in a few minutes. Thank you again, and I will turn it back over to Justin.
Thank you, Chair Kreitz. Appreciate that. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to County Administrator Bob Lawton for a few comments before we get into the presentation itself. Bob? You're on mute. We had to have one.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Chair Kreitz, members of the board, and residents of Mono County. I won't spend too much time. I just want to give folks an overview of where we're going tonight and introduce our polling questions and take us through the first one. So our panelists tonight will be discussing what is a strategic plan, what some of the key terms and concepts are, So you'll hear us using them at different times and points in the process. An overview of the current strategic plan for Mono County, which covers the period 2019 through 2024, and the notion that a strategic plan is a rolling document that gets refreshed on a regular basis while always looking to the future. What the process is for this strategic plan update, and then what some of the next steps will be. And it will be my role as County Administrative Officer to support the board and the county staff in making the strategic plan outcomes a reality in the year and years to come. So, Justin, shall we go to the first polling question?
Sure, we can do that. If Queenie, you'd like to advance the slides to the polling question, first one.
Sorry, give me a moment.
Sure.
Actually, Justin, can you pull up the polls?
Sure, I can pull up the poll. I just need the slide to direct me. Let me see here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, going all the way to slide 7. Give me a second. Here.
Exactly, thank you.
Okay. And with a tip of the hat to both the 2021 census and the county's current redistricting effort and workshops, polling question number 1 tonight, it asks, according to the 2021 census, what is Mono County's population? 24,218, 19,236, 8,550, 13,195, or none of the above.
I think we can go ahead and close the polling, Justin, if you want to pull it up. So I think that's probably correct, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Justin?
That's correct.
All right, it looks like majority, well, super majority actually, got the answer right, 13,195 according to the latest census. So thanks everybody for participating in that, and we will move on to our next step. And I would ask CEO Lawton if he had any other comments before we move along with the presentation.
Thank you, Robert, but I want to make sure I don't block us from getting to the good stuff.
Fantastic. Next slide, please. So good evening, everybody, and thanks for being here tonight. And I really want to say thank you to all of the Mono County Board of Supervisors and their staff and support persons. It's been an absolute gem working through this over the last several months. And I've really enjoyed not only learning a lot more about Mono County, but also knowing how important this is to make sure that we have a roadmap for the future in Mono County, but also that it aligns with our day-to-day service providers here at the county and how we can serve our residents and businesses and other stakeholders even better than we are today. So it's been an absolute privilege, and this is such an important part in the process is to receive public input. But before we get to that piece, we want to talk a little bit about what is strategic planning, some of the core elements, how it exists today, and the purpose for an update. So off we go. Having said that, so what is a strategic plan? It serves as a framework for decisions for securing support or approval with either policies or any type of details that certain departments provide to the public about their services in the greater landscape of Mono County. It also provides more details for organizational and countywide planning, assistant benchmarking, and performance monitoring, which is really internal to the organization, but it provides some great accountability that one would see in budget documents or other planning documents that are countywide. And ultimately, it really is sort of that foundation, but also stimulates change and becomes building blocks for future growth. I'm a big believer in my 35 years in local government that local governments need to evolve over time, and being an arm of the state of California can certainly be challenging because sometimes evolution takes place over a period of time, a little bit longer, but some of the change being an arm of the state of California makes it a little bit challenging. And so it will provide a knock or two to a strategic plan, but nothing we can't recover from, especially if it's built on the premise of being flexible and a living, breathing document. So next slide, please. So what are we trying to achieve through a strategic plan update? Some of the key terms and concepts as well that we'll be going over. So a strategic plan is really it's a strategic management approach that provides direction, inspires a workforce, and provides accountability. And that sums it up. There's a lot more definitions to strategic plans, but I think that really hits it best. And it's a combination of a few. So the mission statement, the vision statement, values, strategic focus areas and goals, outcomes and strategies, as well as action items are really key to the body of, or the elements and within the body of the strategic plan. So the mission is what we do, who we are, and is really our purpose. And vision, what we strive to achieve and be. Values sort of describes in part the culture of the organization. And also strategic focus areas, goals. If you're familiar with strategic planning, you'll probably hear these terms being used, but also other terms that substitute for them. There really is no right or wrong, but ultimately it's got to be the right fit for the organization that is moving this type of process forward. Of course, we have outcomes, self-explanatory, and then strategies to achieve those outcomes, and then action items. And through meetings with board members and staff, it became very apparent that they'd like to see a focus in this update really on action and achieving those things that are priorities for the board, whether they're currently in existence, being worked on, or if they're up and coming, or they're off in the future a few years. And then of course, performance measurement with being a report card, if you will, of how the organization's doing. Next slide. So Mono County's current strategic plan. Next slide. As you will see here, this was developed a few years back, and it contains what we just talked about, the vision and the mission and values, and also the strategic focus areas. And you can see there was a great deal of time and effort that was spent on this. There are a lot more pieces to this puzzle, but this really sums it up. And I have to tell you, while some folks may think that Jesus is really maybe a complex document, and how do you tie it all together? I will tell you, in county land, for lack of a better term, if you will, and even more so today, it requires quite a bit of collaboration to resolve complex issues with local agencies, cities, towns, internal and external partners, because our worlds are really changing daily. And I think this graphic represents that. We'd like to cover everything. I can promise you that if the Mono County Board of Supervisors wanted to set out and include all of the state mandates and the list of services that our folks provide every day, this would be much bigger. And so they really try to get it down to a point where it's relatable to folks. Again, it's just a more challenging environment today, which is, I think, important why this update is moving forward at the request of the board and the CAO. Next slide, please. The vision and mission for Mono County. So as you see here, the vision is outstanding community services and quality of life beyond compare. And then of course the mission, I won't read that, it's right in front of you. But the reason why we're going over a few of these things is to say a lot of effort was taken to put these in place a few years back. But again, considering the changing nature of organizations and in particular local government, it's important that we review these. Now, there may be changes in the future if the board has presented those options, or may not be. But either way, it's hopefully reflecting current times, and it keeps that focus on the core mission and vision. Next slide, please. So we have another polling question for you. Again, just to sort of break things up a little bit and see if the CAO can get all these right. So this is a test, Bob. So here we go with polling question number 2. So what is the approximate square mileage of Mono County? 10,000 square miles, 1,450, 3,000, 8,000 square miles. Again, the approximate square mileage of Mono County. And we'll open the polling. All right, why don't we close the polling, Justin, and let's see our results.
I'm going to give it a few more seconds. We've still got people chiming in.
Okay, sounds great. I haven't answered yet because I'm still Googling it. Just kidding. All right. Well, it looks like 42% chose the right answer, approximately 3,000 square miles. And we also had some in there at 10,000 and 8,000. And but yeah, right on track there, 3,000 square miles, roughly. It's a little bit more than that in Mono County. Thanks, Justin. And Queenie, next slide, please. So if you look at the values that have been identified from Mono County's organization, you'll see collaboration, customer service, excellence, innovation, integrity, and being results oriented. Fantastic values, and they certainly resonate within the organization today. Next slide, please. And then of course our strategic focus areas: improve public safety and health, enhance the quality of life for county residents, fiscally healthy county and regional economy, improving operations and supporting the county workforce. And if you look at these strategic focus areas, they come in many different forms. Well, these are sort of the higher level titles or phrases, if you will, that identify the strategic focus areas. There are a lot more, as they say, tentacles to that octopus, if you will, and it really captures a lot. Next slide, please. So why update a strategic plan? So answers are many. These are just a few. And we talked about this already a little bit, but I think it's worth repeating, and in particular, local governments and their need to evolve as organizations. It's just like a business, maybe in the private sector. If they're doing something well, it's working well, that's great. But I'm sure they take a look at that to see, hey, can we do a little bit better? Do we want to stick with the same game plan? And I think local governments are faced with that every day. How can we be more innovative, and how can we do things a little bit better? While at the same time working with our folks at the state, with our partners within cities or towns or districts, to make sure we understand their needs and that we work together, because something may not change for the county, but it certainly changes for one of them, maybe such as a mandate where they need to partner up for additional resources, or to inform the more of a countywide audience how that is going to impact folks. And so again, the Board of Supervisors, the county overall, needs that cooperation and interaction with its stakeholders. Also allows to review and reset in particular areas if needed. Public entities are adaptive in nature. We talked about that in an arm of the state of California. And it's one of the examples is, really evolving over time and being adaptive in nature is the natural disasters that have been occurring in the state of California, in particular wildfires. And that's something the board is very focused on, is how do we better prepare? How are we more resilient, not just from a landscape perspective with resiliency, but also how is the organization resilient, that it can withstand a disaster and provide the appropriate services to its residents that are needed. So just one example. But when we do an update, we begin with identifying really who we are, what we care about, and what we need to achieve. And I have to tell the folks that are tuning in tonight, it's been an absolute pleasure in working with the board and with key staff at the county, because I think they really do care about making sure folks know that they care about them and they want to do the best possible, but really focusing on achievement and action. And they have made that very clear since the beginning. So really appreciate their energy and their focus on their constituents and stakeholders. Next slide, please. So we have another polling question for you. Again, just to break up the ice so you don't have to hear me the whole time, which is a good thing. Trust me. So polling question number 3, is it a state of California mandate that each county adopt their own strategic plan? Why don't we go ahead and open up the polling? And Justin, I'll let you call this when you would like to show the results.
We'll give it a few minutes. It's going to be close. I can see them rolling in.
Well, that was close. So we have yes and no, and it's optional as the potential answers. 48% chose the right answer. So that is, it's not mandated that the state of California pushes this to counties and cities. However, it's really important to note, though, that there are certain mandates that are required, and there are action plans or strategic plans, say maybe within a grant or two, or there may be items related, for instance, to budget, such as performance measurement, which was enacted by a legislative bill years ago, that county budgets should have a performance measure links to them. So that could be kind of considered part of a mandate, but again, there's no mandate that each county adopt its own strategic plan. Thank you, Justin. Next slide, please. So the process for updating a strategic plan, why don't we talk about that for just a second? Next slide, please. We formed a committee, and which has been fantastic to work with. We've met several times, and as you see at the tip there is Supervisor Kreitz and Supervisor Gardner, your current chair and vice chair, respectively, of the Board of Supervisors. But I will tell you, everybody's participated, and it's been quite a great effort. But thank you to the ad hoc committee and all those others that have provided ongoing comments to date. Next slide, please. So the big four, and whether doing an update to a strategic plan or if you're creating a strategic plan. So we have assessment, engagement, development, and implementation, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. Next slide, please. So in internal assessment, so we talked a lot to date. I've had meetings with supervisors to talk about their understanding of priorities as they currently exist what they would like to see maybe in their respective districts. And it was great input. Fantastic, actually. And then the same with department heads. But again, a lot of those discussions not only focused internally, but also externally as well. So they certainly had their work cut out for them in discussing all of those elements. Certainly met with the county administrator. We reviewed the current strategic plan and basically talked about strengths and weaknesses and how we can do a little bit better than what we're doing now, which is pretty good. But again, I think the board really wants to strive to be much better today than it was the day before. Next slide. So, and then I'll take you to one element that you see under the Board of Supervisors and with department heads. So we have retreats with both of them, or workshops, if you will, to talk a little bit about leadership and also strategic planning. Those went really well, and it was great input received by everyone. And I could submit to you that they're certainly on the right track with their focus, and also asking that we engage the public as well, which is such a critical aspect. There's really no harm if an organization wants to focus internally and look at how they want to adopt a strategic plan for the organization, if you will. And then there's maybe an external strategic plan, or there's one that's a combination of both. This is sort of a combination of both. Something that will help lead the organization to accomplish great outcomes, not only for the organization itself, but for the general public as well. And so we wanted to engage the community. They made it very clear that we provided for those allowances. That's why you receive those wonderful postcards in your PO box, and notices went out on social media. But it really gives an opportunity for all to provide input as they would like. Next slide, please. So development of the plan. So we will take all of this information. When I say we, it's really the initial myself and the committee that will work together to review input, comments, direction received, review those things that we talked about earlier related to mission, vision, values, and then how we link the performance to budget performance or finance, if you will. We'll review the intended outcomes. And again, going back to that organizational and countywide focus, we'll make sure there is a comfortable blend of both. And ultimately, how do we make the strategic plan relevant to everyone? And to make sure that folks have a piece or can refer to it easily if needed. Next slide, please. Implementation. So recommendations that we come up with certainly will provide to the board. They are the policy setters, and they'll be the ones to determine whether or not it is a good idea going forward, say with a particular element, or it needs to be modified or edited to have that right fit within a Mono County strategic plan. And you can see upon final approval that the monitoring of outcomes, whether they're short, medium, or long term, is really key. And one of the key elements, especially internally and externally, is to market and promote truly what we believe in Mono County. And that is everything from its vision and mission and values to the core action items, if you will, to get to those good outcomes. And then, of course, there's the day-to-day management of the strategic plan through those elements that you see there. Next slide, please. Polling question number 4. This is our last polling question. So in what year was Mono County created? Not actually physically created, but when was it founded, if you will, as a county? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't one of the original 27 counties. But Justin, can you pull a poll?
Will do. 1 second.
There it is. 1850, 1861, 1966, which is a fine year, I might add, or 1776? All right, Justin, if we can pull up the polling results, that'd be great. 1861. 80% nailed the right answer. Perfect. That's when Mono County was founded or created, if you will. And if there was an answer there for 1966, I may have had something to do with that. Just saying. So, all right, Justin, thanks for the poll results. And we will go on to the next slide. So community and stakeholder input. We've talked about this a little bit and how important it is to a strategic plan and a strategic plan update. And just, or if we can go to the next slide. I really want to remark on the creativity of Alicia Benos with Mono County, and also Justin Caparuso, who really helped shape this survey along with the committee. And this survey is available, and we'll give you the addresses or the address later on Mono County's website through a link. And this is where we really need your help. So we created this survey to list some priorities there that in survey format shouldn't take that long to fill one out. But the more of these we get completed from individuals or families, or businesses, if you will really help shape some of the results and then actions that we can provide and are provided by the Board of Supervisors in moving forward. So as you can see, there's a variety of them there, from reducing poverty and hunger to solid waste collection, recycling and disposal, to job growth and skill development for our eligible workforce, safe and affordable housing. So we have many of those that folks can identify with. So that's the first page of the survey that's online. Next slide, please. And this is the second part. And these are basically questions that folks can provide answers to and expand upon those answers a little bit. But the questions, as you see there, such as what is the greatest challenge Mono County will face over the next several years? And then also something such as what is a service to the public that Mono County could improve, and how can we make it better? Again, keeping with a theme from the Board of Supervisors, I think the message was pretty loud and clear for me, and our ad hoc committee is the folks in Mono County within the organization work very hard at accomplishing some great things. But I think the board just wants to accomplish even more. And that is some great energy, and not something you see all the time in local government. So it's great that they have this focus of making things, like I said, better today than they were yesterday. Next slide, please. So we need to hear from you. And so what you will see here is how you can comment or get to that survey. If you go to monocounty.ca.gov/strategic planning. And if you can't take the survey, you can also email. We have an email set up at cao@mono.ca.gov. And you can also access the website as well, the survey from the main homepage of Mono County. All right, having said that, I will turn it back over to Justin. And Justin, if you would like to provide any additional comments on how folks can get involved and provide input into the strategic plan.
Sure, thank you, Robert. So just to reiterate, what you're looking at here is a screen grab from the strategic planning webpage. Queenie, thank you so much, has put the links to the webpage as well as the surveys themselves in the chat, if you'd like to take a look and add those to your bookmarks for later. You can see the blue circle indicates where the strategic plan survey is in English, and then of course next to it is the Spanish survey. And there are several ways. If you can't complete the survey and submit it online through the SurveyMonkey tool, you have the ability to print it out in a PDF and scan it, or simply mail it to one of the addresses that you see listed there in the square on this slide. All of that information is also on the web page. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Vice Chair, Supervisor Bob Gardner, for some closing comments.
Yeah, so I think some of the next steps, sorry to interrupt Supervisor Gardner, but we'll go back a couple of slides, please, Queenie. There, that's good. Yeah, there we go. So Supervisor Gardner would like to make a few comments, and then we certainly would like to open it up to folks that may have comments this evening at this workshop. And then after that's done, we'll talk about some next steps. So Supervisor Gardner.
Thank you, Robert and Justin. In moving towards the end of our workshop tonight, I just want to say, really, we're continuing our work to work on behalf of all of you, the residents of Mono County. We certainly know that your time is valuable, and the fact that you're spending some of it tonight for something we feel is important is certainly not lost on us. I tripped over a quote the other day about planning, which I thought was great, and I wanted to repeat. And it's from Thoreau, and he says, "It's not enough to be busy. Ants are busy. The question is, what are we busy about?" And I really feel like this effort to update our strategic plan is an effort to do that, to be busy about some very specific things that reflect the concerns from our employees to department heads, the county administrator, and our board of supervisors. We certainly strive to be better each day, and can only do that by receiving input from you, our citizens, which will provide us with an opportunity for more focus and action, all with the intent to provide, as we've stated, better public service. Working in partnership with you is key to creating successful outcomes, which is what we certainly hope to provide for everyone. Again, thank you for spending your time this evening, and thank you in advance for your input. I look forward to hearing it from you. To provide that input has been stated, please go to the website and follow the directions as have been laid out there. After reviewing the survey results and hearing from you, we'll continue working towards our final strategic plan update, and we'll have some recommendations to consider within the next few months. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Gardner. And I think we will give it back to Chair Kreitz for any comments that may come from either the board this evening or the public.
Thank you, Robert and Justin and Supervisor Gardner. I think at this time, I'd like to go to the public. They've been here for a bit now, and listen to them. So if you have any comments, please raise your hand, and we'd love to hear from you.
Bill, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening, Bill.
Hi, it's great to put faces with the names. This is great. I'm Bill Goodman from Small Meadows. My wife and I have lived here for about 30 years, and I'm the chairman for the Wheeler Crest Fire Protection District. And one of our top #1 priority is to try to get a emergency access road out of Small Meadows. And I sent our supervisor a letter, emailed her a letter, and she's going to forward it on to the board. But we've been doing a lot of fire mitigation here over the last few years. We've been able to get some grants through the fire department and with our Fire Safe Council to reduce the fuel here. And the main issue that's been here for forever is we only have one way in and one way out. And that's Small Meadows Road. And in the 2015 round fire, I was here during that time, and it was a a firestorm from hell. And luckily we had time to get out because it started down in Round Valley and took a few hours to get up here. But I've also experienced fires north of us coming over the hill from Tom's place. And again, we were able to get out. But our community is building up, and we had a Fire Safe Council meeting October 30th at the firehouse outside. And one of the BLM representatives were here, and she explained their reports in our area of Swall Meadows, that on their reports, we average a fire every 20 years here, or pretty close to here. And so basically, since the Round Fire, a lot of vegetation has grown back. We've been working hard at it to reduce that. And she said, basically, we have maybe 14 more years before another big event happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but that's what she has on her books. And so with that, we've been working over the years trying to get an access road out of here, and only for emergency use only. And this is the perfect time right now where funds are available through their federal funds through FEMA and Cal OES for projects such as this. And it's through the California Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. But, and we've contacted the Forest Service and BLM representatives. They've actually walked the path that would be down at the bottom of Swall Meadows out Quail Court or Quail Circle in the Pinion Ranch subdivision at the bottom. And it would go out and across and over to Swall Meadows Road, and then out onto the Lower Rock Creek Road off of that. And they said it's very feasible. They're open to it, but it would take Mono County to be the lead agent on it. And it's all in the letter, basically, that I wrote up with help from our board, and Rhonda Dugan has it. So we would sure like this to be one of the top priorities for the county over here, because with more homes going in, in another 14 years, this is going to be pretty well built out. And we didn't have any loss of life in this last fire. But we saw the bottleneck trying to get out of here with emergency vehicles trying to come in at the same time people were trying to get out. It was really difficult. And the embers were flying around here the size of pancakes. And it was just, it was terrifying. So we would really appreciate this project being on top of the list if you could put it there.
Thank you, Bill.
That's all I have.
Roland, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Roland. I hope you can hear me.
Hi, Roland.
Hi. I'm not sure how to say this. I'm a,
Can you turn up your volume at all so we could hear you just a little bit better?
can you hear me better now?
It's pretty faint, Roland. I don't know if you could get closer to your speaker or your microphone.
How's that?
Better.
How's that?
It's getting better.
Okay. Well, I was, born and mostly raised in California. I've been away for the last 30 or 40 years. I don't know. But I moved back, and I know this is, I have to be careful what I say, but seems like most places that I go, it's the same. And I see, and I noticed on your sheet, it didn't mention anything about taxes. And I'm a concerned citizen about taxes. I feel like lower taxes are better for the citizens and for the businesses. And I don't really, understand how we can better our lives without lower taxes. I don't understand why, the last state I was in, for example, and it's not just, any old state, it's it's a good state. And you wouldn't think that they could manage the way they do, but they're, $1 million home, you would pay, $300 or $3,000 a year in property tax. And here, $1 million home, you're going to pay at least 3 times that. And I realize that the state has taken an automatic 1%. And I don't understand why, because the state says they have money in their coffers, but yet they want 1% for real property tax. And I feel like, it's getting to the point where property owners are supporting everyone in the cities or everyone that doesn't have a home or whatever. But I don't understand how it can continue and people can expect to have a better life. So my concern is mainly property tax. And I'm going to write a letter to every single county asking them to ask the state why they are requiring a mill rate on property. They should not be, because other states I've been in, they don't require. And how is it that they can require it and have money in their coffers? And then on top of that, the county gets tax. So I have a real hard time understanding why the state gets 1%.
Thank you for your comments tonight, Roland.
There are no other hands raised.
I think we come back to the board.
Actually, there is one hand raised. If
Okay,
you don't mind. Julianna and Lou Jones, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep. Hi, thank you for doing this. One of the things I would like to suggest that be reviewed in the strategic plan is customer service from within the county. There are some instances where it seems that there are more roadblocks than assistance because people are trying to make things happen. And they're not always helpful, rather somewhat obstructionist or a little difficult, and maybe more communication between certain departments so that everyone can be on the same page at the same time. And then you don't have multiple going back and forth on projects. That's it.
Thank you, Juliana.
There are no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Queenie. And thank you everyone for your comments tonight. We do appreciate your participation and attendance, even those that didn't comment. So I think bring it back to the board for any comments. Does that sound right, Robert and Justin? Yes?
Yeah, that sounds great. If we can bring it back to the board or the CAO, if they have any comments.
Okay. Well, I'll look to anyone who has a comment to raise their hand, and otherwise I'll hand it over. Yes, Supervisor Peters.
Sure, why not launch right in? First thing I want to do is thank not everybody on the screen tonight, but everybody who participated in the leadership roles to create the launch of the strategic plan that began back in 2017, I think it is, because that's sort of the framework that we're moving forward with. And then I'd like to thank, Robert Bendorf, who comes to us with years of experience in county government. Now I know how old he is, because that was one of the answers to one of the questions of when Mono County was founded. So I'm a little older than you, but really, this is an effort to be inclusive with all of Mono County, and anybody who has an opinion on what strategy we should take to best serve our constituents, visitors, anybody who crosses our borders or knows about us and how we contribute to the rest of California, America. And I do appreciate the questions that were raised, the concerns that were raised. And I think that one aspect that we can never lose sight of is we are all part of the same community, whether we're sitting on the board, whether someone's on a school board or on a commission, all the people that are volunteering a lot of time or are elected or are hired, all of our staff, we're all part of the same community. So getting together to discuss these issues is critical, and not having it just come from an internal process, which Robert kind of touched on during the presentation. So thank you, Chair Kreitz, Supervisor Gardner, for representing the board very diligently and well in this process. And I look forward to seeing the end result and continuing to invite the public to participate. So those are my comments for tonight.
Thank you, Supervisor Peters. Appreciate that. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Okay, thank you. And CAO Lawton, do you have any final comments?
Well, I just wanted to make this observation. I've worked in a number of jurisdictions, and the commitment of this Board of Supervisors to the success of this process, to encouraging an accountable and rational approach to providing services, and also the willingness of this Board of Supervisors, the eagerness of this Board of Supervisors to open the process to be inclusive of line employees and residents of the county. That's rare, and I'd like to thank Supervisors Kreitz and Gardner and Peters and Dugan and Corliss for their support of and their interest in this latest iteration of the strategic plan, and recognize that we're building on what this board and some other people have done in the past. This is an update, and as an update, we want to recognize our internal staff leadership, Nate Greenberg, who worked with the late Bill Chiat from CSAC, and our board and staff and our community on the strategic plan that we're building on. We, all of us, stand on the shoulders of giants, and thanks very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I think that is it. Robert, is that it on your end?
That's it. I just want to talk about next steps. If we can have Queenie pull up that next slide for us.
Great.
And while she's doing that, again, I know I've thanked your board a few times, but I really want to thank your board. Just the patience you all have and the focus you guys have is fantastic. And you're just a pleasure to work with and make it very, very easy. So let me see. Well, we'll just go off this a little bit here so I can see it all. Got it. All right. So next steps, we'll be talking about a few things here. The ad hoc committee, as you can see, has quite a bit to go over the next several months. One is reviewing and compiling the stakeholder input, not only comments received tonight, but those that we receive via email, and of course the survey. Review departmental and countywide priorities. Also, we'll talk about performance metrics and how we integrate those into the strategic plan and match them up with our finance and budget plans. And then we'll review and discuss those areas we talked about earlier that are seen as the bullet. And then we'll eventually bring some recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for consideration. I don't expect that they would adopt all of the recommendations or the ones that we propose. Will be several options. And I think it's appropriate for the board to think about those and see them and make sure they're the right fit for Mono County, of course. And anyway, we'll allow for certainly that. That's been very clear direction from the board. And then also we'll look at hopefully in the early spring of having it complete. People have asked me several times, well, how long does it take? 3 months, 3 weeks, 30 days, 6 months. It's so hard to answer. I mean, some organizations take a few years to do this. I mean, some take, 3 months, some take 10 months or 2 years. It just all depends. But going through it at the right pace with a good amount of tenacity, which I can guarantee is happening, we'll get there to that final result. And finally, or one of the things I didn't mention, I take that back, is the county administrator, Bob, is going to be having brown bag events with employees as well. So integrating them into the conversation and knowing what some of those priorities are from the public and also the board, and then getting their ideas will be very, very helpful. And then at the end, we'll promote, market, and incorporate these strategic plan elements into our everyday service in Mono County. And again, make today better than it was yesterday. So having said that, that is all the information and slides I would like to pass on tonight, Chair Kreitz. And thank you for your patience and your board's patience. And of course, Bob Lawton is CEO, is a great partner to work with. So thanks to everyone.
All right, great. Thank you for that wrap up. Next steps. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And we will adjourn this meeting. We'll be seeing you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our regular meeting. Have a nice evening.